Hoosiers had an early bye week last week and now head south for a matchup with the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky. Featuring one of the Big Ten's top quarterbacks and a talented receiving corps, Indiana looks to go 2-0. It's Big Ten prime time tonight on the Big Ten Network. For the first time ever, a Big Ten Conference school travels to Bowling Green, Kentucky. The Indiana Hoosiers are in town, getting set to take on Western Kentucky University. There have been 159 football games played since the last time the Hoosiers took to the field. Hi, everyone. Matt Depp alongside Derek Rackley. Certainly glad to have you along. I mentioned 159 football games. The last time the Hoosiers played, September 2nd against Towson, that offense of Indiana put up 51 points against the Towson Tigers. How will that layoff affect the high-powered offense of Ben Chappell and the Hoosiers?
Well, I tell you what, he got off to a great start in week 1 versus Towson. Almost 70% completion percentage, a couple of touchdowns and no picks. And here's what I love about Ben Chappell. He's what I call an equal opportunity quarterback. If you get yourself open, he'll find you and give you the football. Now, one of the guys that he'll be looking forward to hooking up with this afternoon is wide receiver Tandon Doss, who will see his first action of the 2010 season after missing the opener with a groin injury. He's got everything you want in a wide receiver. Tall, rangy, ability to make plays, not only offensively, but he's going to return punts as well this afternoon.
Well, he is certainly big time. All right, now for the Indiana defense, they will be challenged today. Running back Bobby Rainey. He ran through the defense in Nebraska, and last week he ran through the D of Kentucky.
Yeah, coming into today, he's number 4 in the nation in rushing yards, and Bobby Rainey's not a big guy, only about 5'8", little under 200 pounds, but he's got a low center of gravity and ability to break tackles, so he'll definitely present a challenge for that Indiana front seven.
The second ever meeting between the Hilltoppers and the Hoosiers. Kickoff coming up next. It's been 16 days since the Indiana Hoosiers last played. Today, blazing hot. Heat certainly could be a factor, nearly 90 degrees here in Bowling Green. Big Ten football is brought to you in high definition by Phillips Televisions. Let's send it down to the third member of our broadcast team, Stacey Pate. Stacey?
Hey guys, Matt, you mentioned it. 16 days separated them from that first win right here on Big Ten Network to today, game number 2. So during that bye week, they spent the first 4 days working on fundamentals, you know, just brushing up on things, getting better. They competed every day and made certain that they stayed on top of the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. They started working on them a week ago today, and they said, you know what, we're ready. And one thing remains secure. They're going to approach each and every game with the same motive, and that is they have to play with a sense of urgency.
All right, appreciate it, Stacey. They have had 4 days off over the course of the last 2.5 weeks. All right, now it's time for the Principal Financial Group edge to the game, Rack.
Yeah, for Indiana, they need to maintain that balance offensively. We all know that Indiana can throw the football, but they've got to establish the running game and contain Bobby Rainey. We talked about it in the open. Put 8 guys in the box, stop the run, and make K'Wan Jakes, their quarterback, beat him in the passing game.
Bill Lynch, the head coach of the Indiana Hoosiers. He is the only IU head coach to open his career with 3 consecutive 2-0 starts. Can he make it 4? And Willie Taggart in his first year as the head man at Western Kentucky University. Tonight's opening kickoff is brought to you by Hass Avocados. Indiana wins the toss. They elect to receive. Nick Turner and Tandon Doss back for Indiana. Hendricks Brakefield, the kickoff for Western Kentucky. Tandon Doss from the goal line. Up to the 15, to the 20, to the 25. Breaks a tackle at the 40, across midfield now. Tandon Doss in his first game of 2010, all the way down to the 12-yard line. And it is the redshirt freshman from Nashville, Tennessee, the kicker, Hendricks Brakefield, that stops him.
Matt, the first problem on this kickoff is there was no hang time by Brakefield kicking the ball, and then he had the convoy in front of him. And I think we could say, it's safe to say that Tandon Doss is recovered from that groin injury. Great start here for the Hoosiers.
Outstanding return, Tandon Doss. Doss, a big-time player. Ben Chappell in Indiana. Chappell out of the shotgun. 3 wide receivers set to the near side. Darius Willis, the running back. Willis cuts it upfield. Inside the 10, down to the 5-yard line. Mark Santoro comes in and makes a stop for Western Kentucky University. Ben Chappell against Towson, connected with 6 different Hoosiers through the air. He was 16 of 23, completed nearly 70% of his passes. Second down now and short. Fumble, loose ball, and it's scooped up by the Hilltoppers.
One of the things Bill Lynch told us about their opener against Towson is that they did not have any of these type of mistakes. Balls on the ground at any point in the ball game. Nonetheless, early you can see a big break right here for the Hilltoppers getting on this fumble. You see the exchange here between Chappell and Willis. He never really had it to start, trying to get back on top of it. And Quanterra Smith for the Hilltoppers gets the fumble recovery.
Sophomore from Loganville, Georgia. So a miscue there, and Western Kentucky will take over from their own 9-yard line. Kwan Jakes, a sophomore quarterback. Play action. Jakes looks up top. Jakes deep down the middle of the field, and he overthrows his intended receiver. Kwan Jakes, a sophomore, doesn't throw the ball all that much. Just 37 attempts thus far in the first 2 games. 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. The majority of their offense is run literally right through Bobby Rainey. Going to bring up now 2nd and 10 for Western Kentucky. The give to Rainey. Rainey close to a first down. Now it's time for the Rotel Velveeta starting offense, because you can't start your game day without their famous queso dip. You see up front for Western Kentucky, the center, redshirt freshman Sean Conway from Father Ryan High School in Nashville, Tennessee. And Bobby Rainey is a guy to keep an eye on. 3rd down and short. Jakes back to pass, has Rainey for a first down and up to the 22-yard line before Indiana comes in and makes a stop. Now it's time for the Auto Owners Insurance starting defense, and this is a defense that is going to have to pay close attention to Bobby Rainey. Up front there is a change. Terrence Thomas gets the start. Darius Johnson is out with a hamstring injury. And the linebackers, they're led, of course, by Tyler Raplogle, who had an interception and 10 tackles against Towson. And that secondary, despite all the changes, Rack, played well in that first game against Towson. Here's a pitch to Rainey. Rainey looking to get outside. Can't turn it upfield, and a pickup of maybe 2. And now flags on the play as Rainey loses a helmet. As Shear comes in, make it Marcus Vasquez that lost the helmet.
After the play, personal foul number 6 of the defense. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
That is Richard Council.
Yeah, and Richard Council is a guy that they're really looking forward to bringing some big things to the table as his first year as a full-time starter. right at the end of the play. Looks like it comes in and ends up picking up the personal foul. But Indiana had Western Kentucky backed up in their own territory, but a couple of good plays here and a penalty, and now you got the momentum shifting a little bit. Western Kentucky about to break over the 50-yard line.
From their own 40, Jake's on a handoff. Here's Rainey trying to get off to the left side. And Rainey's going to be able to pick up 3 on the play before he is tackled by Chad Shear.
K-Juan Jakes leaves his play onto the left side. Actually was a corner blitz by the aforementioned Richard Council coming off the left side, but they had the right plan. They went the opposite direction. But Terrence Thomas, we mentioned, filling in for Darius Johnson, does a nice job of running that play down from the backside.
And remember, Darius Johnson, one of the reasons why they changed that defensive scheme, going to a 3-4 from a 4-3. It's going to bring up second down now. Jakes, play action, rolling out. Hooks up with Jack Doyle, his tight end, the Indiana native. Went to Cathedral High School, and he has a first down. Cathedral High School in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Jack Doyle getting that Western Kentucky sideline excited early on. He's just going to slide behind the line of scrimmage. Jakes does a nice job of getting rid of this ball quickly on the bootleg. He sees Jack Doyle open, and that right there at the end is what got that sideline excited right there, putting his head down, picking up a couple of extra yards. They really like Jack Doyle on this Western Kentucky team.
Inside Hoosier territory. Rainey has a huge opening. Rainey into the secondary before Mitchell Evans shoves him out of bounds. Bobby Rainey.
Rainey gets a great block from his fullback, Nick Bosch, coming right up the middle, just stones the linebacker, and this is what we've seen Rainey do throughout the first 2 games. He is a tough runner once he gets into the open field.
First and 10 now from the 20-yard line after the big run by Bobby Rainey. Rainey down to the 15-yard line. We mentioned in the open of the show, Rack, that Indiana, they're going to have their hands full with a Bobby Rainey. I mean, this is a guy that tore up Nebraska and then did the same thing against Kentucky. He is 4th in the country entering this Saturday with 339 yards.
Well, Western Kentucky's been doing a good job of scoring points. They don't have the W's when it comes to the record to show for it. It's really on the defensive side where they struggle the most, but that offensive line's been doing a really nice job of opening up holes for Bobby Rainey.
Western Kentucky program that has lost 22 consecutive games, and Mitchell Evans there along with Leon Beckham on the stop, and Tyler Replogle.
Right at the end here, you actually didn't even see it, but Western Kentucky is doing a little bit of a shift into an unbalanced line right there. They actually moved their left tackle over to the right-hand side of the line of scrimmage and lined up Jim Murphy, number 84, on the left side. So that's another one of those wrinkles that Indiana defense is going to have to pay attention to throughout the afternoon, is when they go to the unbounce. Here it is right again. You're seeing number 77, Wes Jeffries, move over to the right side.
Rainey sees the seam. Rainey carrying Indiana into the end zone. Touchdown, Hilltoppers.
So we just mentioned him going to the unbalanced. You can see they've got a ton of help over on that right-hand side of the line of scrimmage, and we talked about it early in the show, Matt. Bobby Rainey just has this uncanny ability to break tackles, make himself skinny, and you saw right there, he gets across the goal line.
Casey Tanius right through the uprights. He is perfect over the last 2 seasons, 31-31 in extra points. Hilltoppers on the board first.
Big Ten Network Football is presented by Phillips Televisions. So amazing, you won't be able to take your eyes off of it. By Rotel and Velveeta. Try Rotel and Velveeta's famous queso dip, the ultimate game day snack. And by State Farm. Find an agent or get a quote at statefarm.com.
Bobby Rainey rack already with 62 yards, 10 plays, 91 yards on that drive. 4 minutes, 41 seconds, and a 10-yard run by Bobby Rainey. Doss and Nick Turner back for Indiana. Hendricks Brakefield to kick off once again. And this one is going to be through the end zone, and the Hoosiers will go to work at the 20-yard line when we return. Bowling Green, Kentucky, about an hour's north of Nashville, Tennessee. Tonight, the Big Ten Network will have an encore presentation of our new series that counts down the top athletes in the conference's rich history. Tonight, it's number 20, former Michigan great and Heisman winner Charles Woodson. Big Ten Icons hosted by Keith Jackson tonight at 8:30 Eastern only on the Big Ten Network. The Rotel Velveeta starting offense up front. Andrew McDonald on that left side for Indiana, certainly key as he took over for Roger Saffold. And the backs and receivers for Indiana fans, certainly great to see Tandon Doss back in action after missing that first game against Towson. Sun Belt Conference officials, Western Kentucky plays out of the Sun Belt Conference, and a flag on the play, and that's going to move Indiana up to the 37-yard line. Do you think that layoff, Rack, had any effect whatsoever on the fumble, and then also even Richard Council maybe being amped up a little bit?
There's a chance. I mean, these guys got to get back into the groove, definitely.
Chappell across the middle, throws right behind Terrence Turner. The Auto Owners Insurance starting defense for Western Kentucky. They are led defensively by Jared Clendenin, the junior from Stone Mountain, Georgia. The linebackers, watch out for Xavier Boyd. He is a true freshman. They moved him up from defensive back to start today as a linebacker. His first collegiate start. Belcher. And he is shoved out of bounds by Bullard and Brooks.
We saw on that first down play that Chappell really still trying to find his groove on that throw to Terrence Turner, but here he's kind of getting it back. One thing Belcher is going to need to be careful of is releasing upfield before he actually catches the ball. That's just inviting that defensive back to undercut it and potentially intercept the pass.
3rd and short. Hilltoppers lead 7-0. Second series for Indiana. Here's Darius Willis. Willis spinning, trying to pick up the first down. And this one's going to depend on the spot, Rack. Very close.
You'll see Jared Clendenin, you just talked about him, number 5, comes around the corner and just about wraps up Darius Willis in the backfield, but he keeps fighting. And Chuck Lewis and company will signal the first down. Just got enough to move the chains here for the Hoosiers.
Chappell looking over to the sideline. And they're going to try to go no huddle here and just keep it rolling. Willis in the backfield. Max Dedman in the backfield as well. Chappell looking under pressure, escapes pressure to the near side. Flag down, and Chappell shoved out of bounds by Thomas Majors. But there is a penalty flag in the backfield.
Holding number 66 of the offense. It's a 10-yard penalty from the previous spot. Replay, first down.
Price.
Aaron Price is the guilty party here. This is a tough situation for the offensive line. When the quarterback starts to scramble, they're just trying to stay on their blocks, trying to give Chapel just enough time to get out of the pocket, and unfortunately probably just grabbed a little bit of jersey.
So first down. First and 20 now for Ben Chapel. Chapel quickly to the near side. Turner's cut down. And a big time play by Jamal Forrest coming up on the stop, the sophomore from Miami.
Jamal Forrest still trying to find his way in that secondary. Played as a true freshman last year, started 11 games, but starting to get some of those instincts that you need playing out in the island there as a defensive back.
Indiana just appears to be a team right now searching for some rhythm. It's been 16 days since they last played. They scored 51 points against Towson. A fumble, 2 penalties for 25 yards. Belcher reels it in. DeMarlo Belcher caught 7 balls for 92 yards and a touchdown against Towson, and that's a gain of 14.
Without a doubt, he was Chapel's favorite target a couple of weeks ago. You can see this ball sails on Chapel just a little bit, but that's what you get with experienced receivers. They got no problem of jumping up and snagging that one out of the air.
4 wide receivers set. Deweese Wilson, the talented freshman, and Tandon Doss on the near side. Here is Willis in the backfield. Belcher breaks a tackle. Belcher getting to the outside, and Belcher inside the 30 of the Hilltoppers.
Matt, you mentioned DeMarlo Belcher having 7 catches a couple of weeks ago. He probably should have had 9. He had a couple of drops in that second quarter against Towson. So it looks like he's definitely shaken the demons there from a couple of weeks ago, because he's been solid for him here in the first quarter.
The 28-yard line now of Western Kentucky University. Doss in motion, gets the handoff. Doss inside the 20-yard line before he is brought down by Mark Santoro. Go interactive and play along with every football game this season on the Big Ten Network with the Big Ten Blast game presented by Rotel at Velveeta Famous Queso Dip. Predict plays, answer trivia, and compete and chat with friends for a chance to win the ultimate tailgate package. Sign up now to play the Big Ten Blast only at BigTenNetwork.com. Turner incomplete.
Indiana likes to run that little bubble screen on the outside, get a couple of receivers out there to block for the man. That time it was Terrence Turner. A couple of times we've seen the Indiana Hoosiers that get a little bit overexcited. They get ready to turn the ball up the field before they actually secure the catch. One thing they'll have to keep their eye on moving out the rest of the game.
They look like a team right now that hasn't played since September 2nd. Not sharp, not crisp, but still moving the ball. No place to go up the middle for Burgess. Trey Burgess bottled up and stopped. And a host of Hilltoppers were there. Majors, Santoro, James Hervey. And that's going to bring up 4th down now and a field goal attempt. Mitch Ewald will come in and attempt a 37-yarder. Nick Freeland, the sophomore, sustained a hip injury and he is out, and so Mitch Ewald, redshirt freshman, with the attempt, and it is no good. Hoosiers struggling early. Western Kentucky University up by a touchdown. The United States Marine Corps salutes Kevin Bush, tonight's leader of the game. And Kevin Bush, the Indiana Hoosier linebacker, actually served over 3 years in the U.S. Army, served in Iraq as well as Afghanistan.
Matt, really couldn't have a better Marine Corps leader of the game. Kevin Bush actually had a stinger a couple of weeks ago against Towson, but he is expected to get some action tonight.
Fort Wayne, Indiana native. Misdirection play, and holding on to it is Jakes. This is an offense that is run right through Rainey and Jakes. Coming into this game, they have 558 of the 583 total offensive yards.
Well, and for Indiana defense, these are the two guys you got to stop, and you got to stop them in the running game. I'm truly don't believe that K'Wan Jakes can beat them yet as a passer, but between him and Bobby Rainey, they can definitely beat him on the ground. That's what we saw out of that first drive from the Hilltoppers.
It's going to bring up now second down. Rainey. And Rainey is pulled down right at the 30-yard line. And he will have enough for a first down, and Bobby Rainey moving the chains once again. Chad Shear comes in. Active early is Chad Shear. Western Kentucky up 7-0 with 3:40 remaining here in this first quarter. A great kickoff return by Tandon Doss, wasted by Indiana with a fumble. An exchange between Chappell and Darius Willis, and then a penalty against Richard Council. And Western Kentucky ran all over Indiana. Jakes getting to the outside to score. 4-yard gain.
Nice coverage here by the Hoosiers. They actually sniff out the bootleg coming by Western Kentucky, and once Jakes gets around the corner, everything is swallowed up as far as coverage, and Replogle comes up and makes the tackle in the open field.
You know, this is an issue that Indiana had against Towson, and that was containing their quarterback, Chris Hart.
Definitely been struggling early on against those mobile quarterbacks. Now, I don't think Jakes has got the same kind of speed and agility that Chris Hart did, but he's definitely not afraid to make some plays with his feet.
Coming from the outside, Matt Ernest with the first hit on Jakes on a corner blitz, and Adam Replogle is there.
It's already the second time we've seen the Hoosiers coming with a corner blitz. We saw Richard Council in the last drive. This time it's Matt Ernest. Is one of the things as a wide receiver he'll have to get used to is making these tackles. That's a blow-up shot right there. That's the one chance that a defensive player gets to take an open hit on a quarterback and not get charged a penalty for it. Matt Ernest will learn from the tape on that one. You got to square him up. That's your one chance to deliver a blow there.
Had a chance against Towson, and he delivered with that interception in the 56-yard return for a touchdown. Ernest also a baseball player for the Hoosiers across the middle, and Bobby Rainey can't get back to the line of scrimmage, the original line of scrimmage, and Leon Beckham is there to blow him up.
We talked to
bring up fourth down.
Sorry about that, Matt. We talked to Willie Taggart about what type of offenses he's going to be running, and he said, you know, we're going to run West Coast, we're going to run East Coast, Midwest, South, you name it, kind of that all-coast offense. That route they just ran right there was a Texas route by Bobby Rainey, where he just tried to slant into the middle of the defense, which is a prototypical West Coast route.
Hendricks break field is back end and over end kick to Tandon Doss. The line drive taken by Doss. Doss trying to elude a tackler, and he is brought down at the 43-yard line. Next Saturday, it's another slate of great Big Ten action presented by the United States Marine Corps. Check local listings for the game in your area. Go to BigTenNetwork.com/GameFinder to find your school's game. We will be in Wisconsin. A 51-yard punt, 12-yard return. Austin Peay University, not far from Bowling Green, Kentucky. Austin Peay in Clarksville, Tennessee. So Ben Chappell comes out. They're going to spot it at the 41-yard line. Willis, the running back. Chappell with time. Chappell goes up top, and he overthrows DeMarlo Belcher. Let's go to Dave Repson in the studio for a Discover Game Break. Dave?
Okay, Matt, want to get you updated on what's going on in Madison between Wisconsin and Arizona State. Just before the half, Badgers trailing, not anymore. Scott Tolzien to Lance Kendricks. Arizona State, those tied it up on a second-half field goal, 13-13 in the third.
All right, Dave, of course, Badgers without Nick Toon as well as David Gilreath. Deweese Wilson tied up and brought down behind the line of scrimmage.
Another one of those wide receivers they're really excited about in Bloomington is Deweese Wilson, redshirt freshman. Guy that's really wowed them throughout the spring and into the summer camp. As you mentioned, though, Matt got a little tied up with his feet trying to make a play there.
Offense not clicking. Third down and long. Against Towson, just 2 of 10 on third downs. There was a concern last season as well for Indiana. Pressure across the middle. Indiana has a first down and more. And Belcher on a 20-yard gain.
Those are the type of plays that Indiana was trying to stay away from, the third and long type of conversions. But I didn't really care for the defense that Western Kentucky. It was almost like a prevent defense, leaves all kinds of holes open there in the secondary. Chapel took advantage of it.
Western Kentucky University, their defense right now has shut down the high-powered offense of Indiana. After the first quarter of action in Bowling Green, Kentucky, 7-0 Hilltoppers over the Hoosiers. Getting set for the start of the second quarter. Tonight's Alumni Spotlight is brought to you by Liberty Mutual, featuring Antoine Randall.
Boy, and I tell you what, when I was with Minnesota in 1998, we traveled down to Bloomington. This guy single-handedly beat us. They ended up winning that game 20-19, and we were like, we never lost to Indiana. But I tell you what, that was the most electric player that I saw in college football until I saw Michael Vick.
First down run for Indiana. It's going to bring up now second down. A pickup of 2 for Darius Willis. And Thomas Majors is there on the stop. You go back to that first quarter. You look at what Indiana did and didn't do. Do you think it had anything to do with the fact that it's been 16 days?
Without a doubt. I think they had to wear off a little bit of that rust. I mean, you can only do so much full speed in practice. It is just never going to be the same as how it is on Saturdays.
Belcher, Doss, and Turner up top. Talented trio. There's Doss. Doss at the 15 and brought down at the 11-yard line. That trio had 11 touchdowns a season ago and better than 2,100 yards.
Western Kentucky brings a blitz here, but great communication among that offensive line. Andrew McDonald bumps out, picks up the blitzer, gives Chapel just enough time to take advantage of the open middle of the field.
Turner, Dawson, Belcher caught 184 passes. There have been 25 Big Ten games played, including today. Up top, reaching in, Belcher, touchdown, Indiana. His second touchdown of the season.
Well, Ben Chapel definitely has a nice connection so far this year with DeMarlo Belcher. We mentioned him having 7 catches in that last game, and he's definitely going his direction. Maybe not so much that the other guys are not getting open, but the fact that DeMarlo, is probably posing a mismatch on the outside with his defensive back.
11-yard catch and touchdown for Indiana. Here's Ewald, missed a 37-yard field goal. And the extra point is good and tied up here early on in the second quarter, 7-7.
Big Ten Network Football is brought to you in part by Verizon. Own the airwaves. The signal is yours. Verizon. Rule the air. By fresh, creamy Hass avocados. Nothing else will do. And by Sonic, America's drive-in.
Sort of stuff. And now let's take a look at our Chex Mix fan cam. Chex Mix on game day. We're made to mix. Indiana, only the second BCS school to visit Western Kentucky University. Of course, the Hilltoppers went through the transition going from FCS to FBS. And last year were 0-12. This year they are 0-2. They have dropped 22 consecutive games. Indiana all tied up now. Ewald. Short kick. Willie McNeil. McNeil. Shake. Now he tries to shed the tackler, and he is brought down at the 32. Let's send it to Dave Repson in the studio for a Discover Game Break. Dave?
Thank you, Matt. Want to update you on USC and Minnesota. The Gophers took the lead in the third quarter on an Adam Weber to Dejan McKnight touchdown pass, but USC answers on the ensuing kickoff. Robert Woods, 97 yards, 19-14 Trojans.
All right, Dave, trying to battle back, of course, from that loss to the Coyotes last week, the Golden Gophers. 1st and 10 from the 32-yard line. Jakes, play action, rolling to the near side. Jakes cuts it back. Jakes up to the 38-yard line, and let's send it down to Stacey Payton. Stacey?
Well, Matt, moments ago before the Hoosiers put up their first points of this game and tied it all up, here was the sense I was getting from their bench. First of all, they kept talking to each other about keeping their poise. I heard a couple players say, listen, we're not playing their game, we're playing our game. This is IU football. This is about us. And they said that they needed one big play to get them going. I think they found that. And, Matt, you guys were talking earlier about shaking that rust off maybe from that 16-day layoff. Well, I also get the sense that these guys are starting to feel like they've shaken it off.
Going to be 2nd down now. Jakes goes up top. Vasquez has a 1st down. And a 1st down now for the Hilltoppers. Richard Council comes in. Well, certainly Belcher and Chappell are on the same page.
And it looks like K'Wan Jakes, Marcus Vasquez on the same page too, just trying to take advantage of some off coverage there by Richard Council. Does a good job of getting that ball out of his hands quickly and let the wide receiver make a play in the open field. Did shake the tackle by Council, but by that time the rest of the Indiana defense rallied around to make the play.
Yeah, we're talking about Belcher and Chappell. Belcher already with 5 catches for 73 yards and that touchdown. 1st and 10. Jakes on play action, deep down the middle of the field, and it is caught down to the 15-yard line. Dexter Haynes reels it in. The penalty markers down to back at the 39-yard line.
Well, you see Dexter Haynes just come toward, you saw right at the end, he just started coming like this towards the line of scrimmage, and the official is staring right at the wide receiver. That's the penalty that the officials called.
And so that's going to wipe away that play.
And Matt, it was almost like Dexter Haynes knew the ball was coming to him. He got so excited to get off the line of scrimmage. He started coming downfield, started moving vertically. That's what they called. In order, when you're running in motion, you've got to stay laterally until that ball is snapped. Dexter Haynes got a little too excited to run on that takeoff. Great catch, but illegal play on the formation.
After that, back to Bobby Rainey. Rainey up to the original line of scrimmage. Stay tuned for the Buffalo Wild Wings halftime report with scores and highlights from today's games. How about we're watching Michigan and UMass.
Yeah, you were asking me when it was about, what, 42-24. You were saying, is that a good enough victory for them? And we're up here getting ready for this ball game, and all of a sudden we find out the final score was 42-37.
Yep.
And I definitely think there's some concerns on the defensive side of the ball for the Wolverines. Denard Robinson, just dynamic, just an electric player on offense, but they're going to have to get some things squared away defensively.
Got to stop, right? Of course, UMass may have had some great football teams there at their level. The Indiana defense trying to play stout. Chad Shear out, and Sims trots onto the field for Indiana. It's going to bring up 3rd down and long. Third and long situation for the Hilltoppers.
Yeah, this is a big down here for the Indiana defense. I mean, the guys need to be telling each other on the field right now. I see a lot of guys with their hands on their hips. This is where you get excited. This is where you say, fellas, let's get off the field right here. It's 3rd and 9. It's a great situation for the defense. Buckle down, get a stop, and let your offense get back on the field and do what they do best.
Jakes with time, now flushed out of the pocket. Jakes shovels it ahead. Rainey scoops it up. And penalty markers all over the field. He may have been beyond the line of scrimmage. More than likely, that is going to be the call.
Yeah, they're going to get Jakes for an illegal forward pass here past the line of scrimmage. Got to give him credit, just trying to make a play.
Illegal forward pass, offense number 6. It's a 5-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. Loss of down, 4th down.
So 4th down now for the Hilltoppers.
Jakes is just going to try to get outside the pocket. At first, he's thinking about tucking it down and running. Right at the last second, he does his best Brett Favre imitation, trying to see if he can't get a little bit greedy and try to pick up a 1st down. Unfortunately for the Hilltoppers, he was past the line of scrimmage.
Casey Tanius to punt. Tandon Doss has 1 punt return for 12 yards. A knuckleball that floats and now rolls into the end zone, and the Hoosiers will go to work at the 20-yard line. Ever between Indiana and Western Kentucky University. First time they ever met was in Bloomington, August 30th, 2008, and the Hoosiers won it 31-13. Tandon Doss reaching for the 30-yard line, and he's going to have a 1st down. Tandon Doss has looked solid in his return.
You wonder, even in that first game against Towson, if he would have been ready to play, but they just kind of felt comfortable the fact that they could get past Towson and also to give him some more time in this layoff.
Bill Lynch told us that there would be no restrictions, and that has been the case early on. Willis, maybe a yard on that carry. Quintera Smith comes in on the stop, and you see how dangerous he was a season ago, and they expect that again this season.
Yeah,
Brad.
definitely one of the most accomplished receivers in the conference last year, of course, behind Keith Smith, a lot of those categories, who, of course, Keith Smith just went down with a knee injury last week and is going to be out for the rest of the season. So you'd think that Tandon Doss is probably one of the better and more accomplished receivers in the conference now since Keith Smith has gone down.
3 wide receivers to the right. Chappell looks to the right, fires, finds Belcher. Belcher leaning forward to the 40-yard line before Darius Brooks is able to bring him down. Here in Bowling Green, Kentucky, the first time ever that a Big Ten conference school is here in Bowling Green. Matt Devlin, Derek Rackley, former Minnesota Golden Gopher, and Stacy Pates. The Hoosiers and their road white. 3rd down and short. Chappell looks downfield, and he has his big tight end in Ted Bolzer.
Ted Bolzer, a guy that came up big for the Hoosiers in that first game against Towson, specifically in that first half. But Chappell, I talked about it at the top of the telecast, an equal opportunity quarterback. He's going to find whoever's open. Found that his flat route receiver was covered, delivers the ball to Bolzer, and moves the chains.
Gain to 13. Inside handoff. And Nick Turner trying to turn it upfield. And he is able to pick up 8. And it's going to bring up now 2nd down.
Talked about the youth on that Western Kentucky defense, Matt. Quintera Smith, the defensive end that was on the side right there, just got a little bit too concerned with being in towards the middle of the line of scrimmage. That should have been his play, containing that ball and making sure that Willis cuts up inside.
It's actually a pickup of 9, 2nd down and 1. The give, Antonio Banks, the freshman from Middletown, Ohio. And Quinteris Smith and James Hervey is there.
And we talked about Indiana establishing a running game and making that balance between run and pass, and they've got a number of guys that they're really trying to shuffle through that backfield, try to provide some depth behind Darius Willis, and Antonio Banks being one of those guys.
5 wide receiver set. Bolzer, the tight end, is split out. No huddle for the Hoosiers. Chappell out of the shotgun. Tied at 7. Chappell down the middle of the field, and Turner is smacked hard, but he holds on to it. And they right now, the Hoosiers are rolling down to the 11-yard line of the Hilltoppers.
Yeah, two things that stick out to me here is the protection by the offensive line, number one, and number two, just Chappell's sense for anticipation, knowing where his guys are going to be, just lets that ball go, throws it to a spot, and lets his receiver run to it and make the grab.
The offensive line of Indiana. Timeout. Western Kentucky University. Offensive line of Indiana averages 6'5½", nearly 311 pounds. Western Kentucky defensive line 6'2", 263. Indiana tied at 7. Bill Lynch, in his 4th year at the helm of Indiana, said that they have bowl expectations this season. The last time that Indiana won a bowl game, 1988. So it's time for the Big Ten flashback presented by Wolf Chili. Quarterback Dave Schnell had 2 touchdowns, and IU won it over South Carolina 34-10 back in 1988. The Liberty Bowl in Memphis, Tennessee. They have had 1 winning season since 1995, and of course they went to the Insider Bowl back in 2007. Under Bill Lynch. 1st and 10. The give. Banks trying to run to the right side. He is stacked up and stopped. Antonio Banks, a true freshman, and that is a rarity. If you're a member of the Indiana Hoosiers, Bill Lynch has redshirted 92% of the players since taking over the job.
It's really been his philosophy here since he got to Bloomington, is unless the freshman is just outstanding, I mean, he feels like he can really contribute to the offense or defense, they're going to hold him out, let him develop with strength and mentally for a year.
A loss of 2. Chappell across the middle of the field, pass intended for Doss. And that's going to bring up 3rd down.
Really like the mentality of Ben Chappell once he gets into the red zone. We saw this a couple of weeks ago as well, but he loves to take advantage of the middle of the field. You can see it looked like he was a little bit out of sync with Tandon Doss right there, thinking he was going to flatten him out a little bit more towards the middle of the end zone. Again, that will come the more these two guys get used to each other in 2010 in game situations.
The dangerous Willis back on the field, the running back for Indiana. 3rd down again for Indiana, 3rd and long. Out of the shotgun. Chappell. Chappell under pressure and brought down. Jared Clendenin and Jamarcus Allen. A loss of 8, and penalty markers are down, so hold on, Hilltoppers.
Yeah, we just got done talking about the protection for Indiana's offensive line, but Jared Clendenin does an excellent job of using leverage to his advantage and pushes that offensive line right back into the heels and the toes of Ben Chappell.
After the play, unsportsmanlike conduct, number 5 of the defense. The penalty is 10 yards, 4th down. The penalty is half the distance to the goal, 4th down.
So watch Clendenin, he's doing the celebration right here. And you notice that Chuck Lewis, the referee standing right there, he's not even the guy that throws the flag. It comes from the linesman, which is over on the Indiana side of the field, which I really thought Chuck Lewis was going to throw that flag a lot earlier. But the linesman, which was about 25 yards away, was the one that threw the flag.
And it'll set up this field goal right here. 27-yard attempt. Mitch Ewald missed the first attempt, and that one is good. And Indiana, after that penalty on Jared Clendenin, field goal good. Hoosiers lead by 3. Levin plays 70 yards before the field goal, 27 yards by Mitch Ewald. Stay tuned for the Buffalo Wild Wings halftime report with scores and highlights from today's games. Hoosiers lead 10-7 to 5:48 remaining here in this second quarter.
I'll be honest with you, Matt, I'm a little bit surprised how things have unfolded here in the first half. I mean, I personally felt that Indiana had a huge advantage in the passing game because this Western Kentucky defensive backfield has been shredded in its first 2 games, but they've been doing a really good job of hanging in there and preventing any big plays. They've gotten some decent chunks, Indiana has. The Western Kentucky has made some plays, whether it be a sack, a pass breakup, that's really slowed down the passing game here for the Hoosiers.
Well, the first 2 opponents, Nebraska and Kansas, or rather Kentucky, they averaged 56 points against them for a total offense of 509 yards and nearly 262 yards through the air. And that has not been the case thus far. As Willie McNeil takes it, McNeil with a great move. McNeil, stutter step, spinning, getting to the outside. And he is brought down at the 32-yard line. Tonight's Verizon Key Connection. On the left, Dave Elson, former head coach here at Western Kentucky. And Dennis Springer, assistant head coach.
Yeah, David Elson, of course, just all the way up until last year. You see him right in the middle of the screen there. He's actually the quality control now for the Indiana defense, but he was the head coach here in Bowling Green for quite some time. Did a great job when they were at the FCS level and helped them through that transition, but just the last couple of years have been rough on this program.
And Elson worked with current Western Kentucky University head coach Willie Taggart. Taggart was an assistant head coach from 2003 through 2006 under Dave Elson before he went out to work with Jim Harbaugh at Stanford University. And Willie Taggart, in fact, played for Jack Harbaugh here. He was recruited by the former Michigan quarterback Jim Harbaugh to play quarterback here for Western Kentucky. And Dave Elson, his brother played for Bill Lynch. First down for the Hilltoppers. Jack Doyle on the reception. His brother, Dave Elson's brother, played for Bill Lynch at Butler University.
So there's definitely a family connection there with Lynch on the Elson family. And it's one of those things a couple weeks ago I was a little surprised about because I called the Sun Belt Conference last year, so I had a number of games with Western Kentucky and had a chance to speak with David Elson. And then when we were meeting with Indiana a couple weeks ago, I see him walking in the hallway. Didn't even realize that he was on their staff.
Bobby Rainey spinning, still driving, and Sliger makes sure that he doesn't move any further. And the tackle will bring it back to the 50-yard line. It's going to bring up second down now for the Hilltoppers.
I will say this, I have seen some definite development out of K'Wan Jakes from last year when I saw him playing quite a bit. He's throwing the ball better, he's getting it out of his hands quicker, which is definitely a positive thing for this Western Kentucky offense, because I really didn't feel like he threw the ball well, was comfortable in the pocket last year, but he's definitely made some development in spring ball and through two-a-days this year in August.
Jack Doyle in motion. Rainey off the left side. Rainey trying to get outside, can't. And Kyles, Yada Kyles, the junior college transfer from Cerritos Junior College, is there to bring him down.
Yada Kyles was formerly a corner, actually brought into Indiana to play corner, but from some of the injuries they had in the secondary and graduation, they decided to move him back into the safety position. And we talked about how Bobby Rainey's got that ability to slide some tackles. A nice open field tackle there by Kyles.
Jakes 5 of 6 for 33 yards. Hilltoppers 2 of 4 on third down conversions. Empty backfield. Rainey on the near side. Jakes under pressure, fires over the middle, batted ball. Incomplete. It'll bring up fourth down for Western Kentucky University.
And K'Wan Jakes takes a huge hit from Adam Replogle, defensive end here for Indiana. Take another look at Replogle. Almost comes unblocked. Just on the corner of that right guard right there, delivers a big blow. Jakes knew he was going to take a hit, got rid of the football. But sometimes as a quarterback, you know you're just going to have to take a blow here and there.
Hendricks break field. Low line drive, end over end kick that hits the back of one of the Western Kentucky players. And Indiana is going to take over after a 26-yard punt, trying to keep it away from Tandon Doss. And the explosiveness of the junior.
You know, I've never really been a huge fan of the rugby-style punting, which is what Brakefield did right there. It's precisely for that reason, is that you don't have a hang time, you don't have a long punt, and a lot of times you'll ball because they got a good chance of hitting your gunners running down the field, trying to block, trying to open up some holes right there. But you see a lot of colleges going to that rugby-style punt in this day and age.
Chappell fires hit to Doss. Doss inside move, spun around and up to the 34-yard line.
Good snag here by Tandon Doss. Another little bit of a high throw here by Ben Chappell. And Darius Brooks, number 2, the corner for Western Kentucky, is actually a converted wide receiver. Not only did he still play wide receiver in the spring, but they just moved him in August, and now he's starting at corner. So those are some of the areas that he'll improve on after he gets more experience.
Out of the backfield, Willis inside Hilltopper territory before he is tackled and brought down by Orlando Misalafua.
And I tell you, if I'm a corner out here and I see big number 73 James Brewer coming at me at 6'8", 335 pounds, I'm probably going to try to find a way to either get down or get out of the way, because I'm not going to win that battle. But a good matchup of getting Willis out in the open field.
Pick up a 17 yards, 1st and 10. Chappell to the air once again, and out of the outstretched arms of DeMarlo Belcher. Only the 5th incomplete pass for Ben Chappell. This is the first unit talking to Matt Canada. I said, you know, look, going back to that game against Towson, they only had 41 snaps, which isn't that many. And then you combine that with the layoff, and it almost appeared as though it took them the entire first quarter before they got on track a little bit.
Yeah, usually a team is getting somewhere around 60 to 70 snaps a game. So this first team unit offense really only got about 2/3 of a football game.
Chappell underneath, and Turner is there as Chappell checked off his receivers downfield and went underneath. And Terrence Turner on the reception. He had 3 catches for 14 yards against Towson. And there's 1:38 remaining here in the second quarter. And
That
Indiana
is their first timeout of the first half.
takes a timeout. Bill Lynch and his Hoosiers up by 3. Tonight, the Big Ten Network will have an encore presentation of our new series that counts down the top athletes in the conference's rich history. Tonight, it's number 20, former Michigan grade and Heisman winner Charles Woodson, the Big Ten Icons, hosted by Keith Jackson tonight at 8:30 Eastern, only on the Big Ten Network. I saw the first one. You've seen it. We watched it actually together, and you know Charles Woodson well, don't you?
Yeah, I know him well, not personally, but from an athletic standpoint. I can tell you, I got a picture hanging up in my basement from when I was with Minnesota. And Charles Woodson, it's a great picture. I was covering on a punt, and I looked like I just had him wrapped up. But the moral of the story is, the end of the story.
How did that work out for you?
I'll get to that part. Is that I was not even close to making the tackle. He was so athletic. You just hope that maybe you could catch a shoestring or something. He was one of the best defensive players I ever saw in my days at Minnesota.
Did you have him autograph it?
No, I didn't. I should, though, because it's a great picture.
Of you almost making the tackle.
Almost.
Chappell has a wide open Deweese Wilson. Wilson reels it in, shoved out of bounds inside the 5-yard line. The explosive Deweese Wilson, the redshirt freshman from Columbus, Indiana. Indiana State champion in the long jump. 37-yard connection.
You can see why a couple of years ago he was Mr. Football on the offensive side in Indiana. Almost looked like he didn't even know the ball was coming, and right at the last second he spots it. Look at him go over his back shoulder and snag that one out of the air. A lot of the guys can't even make that adjustment, nonetheless bring it down.
What a talented core. Maybe one of the best receiving cores in the Big Ten Conference. On the run inside the 5-yard line for the Hoosiers. This is a Hoosiers team that is now going to play 11 straight weekends. They have the Akron Zips before they open up in Big Ten Conference play. Willis ran over 100 yards in that first game. They need to see him do something here.
They really do. They need to see him develop, and they need him to stay healthy. That's one of the reasons why they rotate a number of different backs through there, but he is definitely the key in that backfield.
2nd and goal to go. Willis cut down. He's going to bring up 3rd down. Willis 14 carries for 102 yards and 2 touchdowns against Towson.
This front 7 from Western Kentucky has really been active here in the first half, something that I didn't see much out of from last year. So Clint Bowen, who's the new defensive coordinator here in Bowling Green, is doing a really good job of working with what he's got and having these guys play with an up-speed tempo.
From the grad assistant at the University of Minnesota. 3rd down now. Chappell to Doss. Doss reaching over. Touchdown, Indiana. First touchdown of the season for Tandon Doss. What a grab by Tandon Doss.
We talked a little bit about Ben Chappell early on with some high throws, but this one is actually a good throw. When you get down into the red zone, you like quarterbacks to throw the football high because that is the spot where your wide receiver can go up and make the play, and he's the only one that can make the play. And Tandon Doss doing a great job in his first action here in 2010.
Ewald, and it's now a 10-point lead for the Indiana Hoosiers. Chappell checks off to the near side and finds Doss. He plays 77 yards, 2 minutes and 26 seconds for Indiana. The scoring drive, Tandon Doss, 4 catches, 49 yards, and a touchdown reception.
Well, we saw early on in the game it was a lot of DeMarlo Belcher, and now Chappell and Tandon Doss are starting to get on the same page, which again is just a great sign for Matt Canada, Bill Lynch, and the rest of this Hoosier team. Is, you know, we've talked at length that this Indiana receiving core has got to be one of the deepest in the conference, and just the fact that they feel comfortable going with so many different guys. We saw Deweese Wilson with the excellent back shoulder catch on that drive as well. There's so many guys that they feel comfortable can make plays for him offensively.
Squib kick, and it's touched by Western Kentucky, one of their up men, and Indiana's going to recover. Hoosiers with 12 seconds in the arm of Ben Chappell and the receiving core to possibly come away with points.
And this is by no means an onside kick. This is just happens to be bad luck for Western Kentucky that ball just ends up hitting one of the players square and goes back towards Indiana. A lot of times if it just glances off his leg, it's going to keep going downfield. But now you give Indiana a shot to take a couple of plays here to see if they can't get into territory for a field goal or score a touchdown.
Remember, Mitch Ewald did miss a 37-yard attempt. Doss, Turner, and Wilson. And Doss almost coming down with a one-handed snare. 6 seconds now. And
well, you talk about a potential acrobatic catch. Tandon Doss almost just one-hands this thing about 3 feet over his head. That would have made pretty much every Sports Center reel you look at it. That was the potential to be an outstanding grab.
2nd down now and 10. And let's see what Chappell decides to do. I think they're just going to take this one to the knee. And that's exactly what Ben Chappell decides to do. instead of risking anything here, and a 10-point advantage, 17-7 for Indiana.
Well, that first down play was the one where they were going to try to take a shot. They were going to see if they could pick up a big chunk. Maybe a wide receiver would miss, a defensive back would miss a tackle and the wide receiver would make a play, or like I mentioned, they could have got themselves into field goal territory.
Chapel in the first half, 17 of 23 for 230 yards already. They have thrown 22 passes, 14 run plays, and let's go down to Stacey Pates.
Some adversity to overcome early in this game, the first quarter. Coach, talk about the resilience you're seeing from your team.
Well, our offense played pretty well. We still have to play better defensively. They've been able to control the ball on us, and that's something that, we've worked very hard on that, knowing that Rainey's a great back. So we've got a work cut out for us, the second half.
Yeah, talk about that in the second half. What becomes the key?
Well, one thing is we can't settle for field goals in the red zone. That's something, if it wasn't for Doss making a great play down there, I think that's something that, we got to go in and talk about how we're going to do that, and then we've got to do a better job, just slowing them down on defense where they can't control the ball on us.
We'll see you in the third quarter. Thanks,
okay,
Coach.
Thank you.
All right, Matt.
I appreciate it. When we return, Dave, Coach D and Griff in the studio. The Indiana Hoosiers lead 17-7 in Bowling Green, Kentucky. It's halftime. Here in Bowling Green, halftime, and Indiana leads 17-7. Matt Devlin alongside Derek Rackley, and Rack, you go back to the first half. DeMarlo Belcher, Tandon Doss, that tandem doing it once again.
Yeah, I think we're seeing exactly what Indiana is capable of in the passing game. 10 catches between those two guys, but flipping it around, Western Kentucky has basically been dominating the football game on the ground, but thanks to the sure-handed of Ben Chappell, that's what's keeping them up in this ball game.
All right, first half stats, and first half stats are presented by 5 Hour Energy. One of the concerns, only 23 yards on the ground for Indiana.
Yeah, 15 carries, so you're talking about 1.5 yards a carry, and that's one of the things we talked about is they got to establish that balance on the offense. But of course, Ben Chappell early on, 17 out of 23, and he's been effective getting that ball into scoring territory for the Hoosiers.
And Bobby Rainey, almost 92 yards on the ground for Western Kentucky between Bobby Rainey and the quarterback, K'Wan Jakes. Second half after this. Text keyword Rotel to 20284 to enter the Rotel Feed Their Game Face sweepstakes. Winner will receive 52 weeks worth of groceries and a trip to a college football game. Message and data rates may apply. Text stop to quit. Getting set for the start of the second half. The Indiana Hoosiers becoming the first ever Big Ten school to travel to Bowling Green to take on Western Kentucky University Hilltoppers. Start of the second half is presented by Sure Start. Indiana will kick off to begin the second half. Mitch Ewald. And back for Western Kentucky, Willie McNeil, a dynamic kickoff returner. And what do you think some of the keys for Indiana here in the second half will be?
I think Bill Lynch talked about it with Stacey right before the end of the first half there, is that they're going to start buckling down on defense, getting some stops, stopping the run, which we talked about at the beginning of the telecast.
McNeil takes it at the 1. McNeil makes a move, gets up to the 20-yard line. Big Ten football is brought to you in high definition by Phillips Televisions. Let's send it down to Stacey Pates. Stacey?
Well, I just spoke with head coach Willie Taggart moments ago, and I asked him what he said to his guys in the locker room. Obviously, two opposite effects. Bill Lynch had momentum going in. Taggart's team, not the case. He said, I told my guys, go out there and play. You're not going to win a game until you trust yourselves and just play. I said, Coach, do you think they heard you? He said, oh, yeah, they heard me.
Well, they haven't won a game in a while here. You got to go all the way back to 2008. September 20th of 2008 against Murray State. They won it 50-9 since that time. Western Kentucky University has dropped 22 consecutive games. Bobby Rainey, no place to go. And of course, a lot of that is that transition going from FCS to FBS, and going back prior to FCS when it was Division I AA, Western Kentucky University under Jack Harbaugh in 2002 won a national title.
Well, one of the advantages you get at an FCS school is a lot of times you get those guys that want to transfer from FBS programs to an FCS school because they don't have to sit out a year. They can come in and they can play right away, and you're getting a top-level type athlete playing at an FCS school.
Rainey already with 81 yards on the ground, and Indiana, their defense right now, stout in his first series coming out of halftime.
Well, once again, Adam Rapogel getting his presence felt in the backfield, and we talked about how tough of a runner Bobby Rainey is. You see, he almost eluded that tackle from Adam Rapogel, but held on for dear life right there, and presents a situation here where Western Kentucky does not excel in it, or any team for that matter. 3rd and 14. This is a chance for Indiana. Maybe bring a little bit of pressure on defense, see if you can't get somebody in the face of K'Wan Jakes.
Adam Rapogel, the younger brother of Tyler Rapogel, team captain of Indiana. They have 2 younger brothers that also play the game of football. Pitching it on the outside, Willie McNeil on a 3rd down play, and now Western Kentucky University 2 of 6 on 3rd down conversions.
You see right there how difficult it is when you got 3rd and 14. I mean, that actually ended up breaking down, but they still picked up 7 or 8 yards on the play. You got 3rd and 5 or 6, you just moved the chains there. Definitely situations that any offense in the country has got to stay away from, as those 3rd and long situations.
Terrence Turner is back, not Tandon Doss. And Hendricks Brakefield, the punt off the side of the foot. And it's going to be great field position for Indiana inside the 50 of Western Kentucky. Only 18 yards.
You know, Indiana's punt block team is getting quite a bit of pressure too. I think the operation for Western Kentucky has taken too long between the snap, the catch, and the punt.
First series of the second half for Indiana after this.
Big Ten Network Football is brought to you in part by Auto Owners Insurance. Get to know the independent agents representing Auto Owners Insurance, the no-problem people. By Polaris. See the hardest working, smoothest riding off-road vehicle now at your local dealer. By Sure Start Herbicide from Dow AgroSciences. It's designed to maximize yield in Roundup Ready corn. And by the Cooper Tire Take the Money and Ride national event.
The official 2010 Big Ten Network Football iPhone app delivers the best way for you to follow your favorite Big Ten team with the latest live game tracking and individual player and team stats. Follow along live and stay up to date with the latest Big Ten news. You'll even have easy access to the Big Ten Network television schedule, so you'll always know when your favorite school will be featured on the air. Download it free today. I think Rack, you're doing it right now as we speak. Terrence Turner across the middle, and Turner a pickup of 5. It'll be 2nd down and 5 before Thomas Majors comes in and gets a stop. You doing the Gophers over there with that app?
I already got the app.
You already got the Gophers?
And you know what? I was looking for the app on my iPhone about 3 months ago, and it wasn't quite there yet. So now we've got the people, you know, we're all technologically adept now and can follow the Big Ten everywhere you go.
2nd down for Chappell. Chappell to the air once again, fires it right behind Turner. And an incomplete pass is going to bring up now 3rd down for Indiana. And they have yet to establish a run, something Matt Canada talked to us about. They want to show balance.
Well, Indiana running that route out of a bunch formation. All 3 of their wide receivers you see right there at the same position. Chappell takes a hit at the end of the play, but when they run that bunch, they're trying to put their cards that Western Kentucky's not going to be able to sort it out once those guys come off the line of scrimmage.
3rd down, conversion 6 of 7. Turner, did he get enough for the 1st down? Tyree Robinson, the true freshman from Dundee, Florida, comes in on the stop, and it's going to be a 1st down. Now 7 of 8, extremely efficient for Bill Lynch and the Indiana Hoosiers on third down conversions against Towson, just 2 of 10.
You go back all the way to the summer at the Big Ten Media Days, that was one of the things that Bill Lynch was emphasizing that this team was working on, is we got to convert on third down and we have to score touchdowns when we get in the red zone. So we're seeing that development already tonight. And it doesn't matter that it's Western Kentucky. Your team has to believe that they can convert on third down.
No huddle once again from the 29-yard line. Willis gets outside. Willis inside the 20. Flags are down, and Willis cut down at the 16-yard line. Mark Santorio and Thomas Majors are there. But a flag on the play after the pickup of 12 and holding, and it'll come back. So the first
Offense, number 72. 10-yard penalty from the previous spot. Replay, first down.
So Andrew McDonald, the left tackle, is a guilty party here. Here he is right here on the left-hand side of your screen. And watch as Willis breaks outside the contain. It's probably going to end up being right there. You see both his hands are outside the framework, and he's grabbing on that jersey. Easy call right there for the officials.
So that negates the first successful run for Indiana, now backed up at the 39-yard line. 3 penalties for 35 yards for the Hoosiers. They'll swing it to Willis. Willis is knocked out of bounds at the 33-yard line. And it's going to bring up now second down for this Hoosier offense. There is Willis. What do you think about his day thus far, Rack?
Struggling a little bit on the ground, but there really hasn't been a whole lot of opportunities. I don't think they've actually gotten to that balance that we talked about early in the game. I think they got to go back to the run a little bit more here in the second half.
Chappell changes it up. Last time an IU player rushed for over 1,000 yards was back in 2001. They were hoping to get something out of Willis this year, close to that, as Belcher will have a first down for the Indiana Hoosiers, as Ryan Baird is there on the stop after a 20-yard pickup.
Well, one of the things we were talking with Willie Taggart about on the phone this week is he said one of the things our young defense has to learn is making tackles. And again, right there, you saw a missed tackle. That ball could have been brought down inside the sticks there to force the third down. Instead, the missed tackle. Now Indiana's got a first down inside the 15-yard line.
Doss on the near side. On the top side is Belcher. 7 catches for 101 yards for DeMarlo Belcher. Play clock down to 3. Chappell gets it off. Burgess has a seam. Burgess lowers his shoulders and gets down to the 1-yard line. Trey Burgess, a big run there.
I just love how Ben Chappell's so cool under pressure, making sure everybody's on the same page. Gets a nice block there by James Brewer, his right tackle. And again, at the end of the play, Trey Burgess putting his pads down, making sure he's the one that delivered the blow.
Quick snap, and Chappell jumps into the end zone on a quarterback keeper for the touchdown. There are no huddling, no time for the replay even. Chappell gets underneath and goes.
So not only does he surprise us here in the broadcast booth, he also surprises that Western Kentucky defense in a great savvy play call right there by Matt Canada, trying to catch him off guard with a little quick snap, get the quarterback sneak into the end zone.
Seven plays, 38 yards, 2 minutes, 51 seconds, and Indiana up now 24-7. Chappell on the quarterback keeper. Football fans, you can create your own football highlight reels each week with a Big Ten football mashup presented by Buffalo Wild Wings. Go to mashup.big10network.com right now to compile your favorite plays and share them with your friends. 24 unanswered points by the Indiana Hoosiers, and Ben Chappell 21 of 28 for 267 yards, 3 touchdowns. He has now thrown 2 or more touchdowns in 6 consecutive games dating back to last season. Mitch Ewald getting set to kick off for Indiana. Willie McNeil is back for Western Kentucky. And IU up 24-7 defense has held Western Kentucky scoreless since that first quarter. Willie McNeil cuts it back, looking for a seam, no place to go, spinning. And down at the 29-yard line, maybe reaching the 25-yard line as we send it to Dave Refson in the studio for a Discover game break.
Okay, Matt, Wisconsin and Arizona State, the Sun Devils had scored a touchdown to pull within one, but Jay Valai blocks the extra point, and Wisconsin hangs on to win it 20-19 in Madison.
Oh, they're loving it in Madtown. They escape with the victory against the Sun Devils. Look forward to seeing Wisconsin next weekend against Austin Peay.
So you see Wisconsin now, they get to 3-0, and Matt, you talk about how important special teams is. Revson just talked about that blocked extra point by Jay Valai. Michigan, Ohio State, of course, improved to 3-0, and Minnesota down there at the bottom, they came up short against Southern California at TCF Bank Stadium in Minneapolis.
Badgers have now won 27 consecutive regular season non-conference games dating back to 2003. Jakes trying to escape pressure, and Jakes reaches the 30-yard line. And Larry Black is there on the stop, the redshirt sophomore from Cincinnati, Ohio.
And I'm sure Willie Taggart is happy to see that K'Wan Jakes is making quick decisions. When he realizes that his wide receivers are covered up, he's quickly making the decision to tuck it down and run and pick up as much as he can. 4 yards there on second down. We always talk about 4 yards or more pretty much every down, and you're looking at moving the chains every series.
Third down. Jakes out of the shotgun. Jakes is going to tuck it under and run for the first down. Jakes at the 40, reaching out to the 45-yard line. They're going to spot it at the 46 before Tyler Replogle is there. 16-yard pickup.
And I almost feel like K'Wan Jakes worked on his speed a little bit in the offseason. He's looking a little bit quicker and faster than I remember him from last year. And Coach Taggart had told us a little bit that when he was in the spring, Jakes was actually, as he quoted, in his doghouse because competition was open when Willie Taggart got here, but he came out, he had an outstanding fall camp and won back that starting position for Western Kentucky.
Jakes, play action. Flag down, and Jakes brought down in the backfield. One of the reasons why he was in that doghouse, he actually injured himself in a pickup basketball game, so he missed a couple of weeks of spring ball. So that can get your head coach just a little bit upset with you.
Holding, number 27 of the offense. 10-yard penalty from the previous spot. Replay, first down.
Rod Johnson, the senior from Lexington, Kentucky, 5 penalties for 45 yards.
And Rod Johnson's just battling away in the backfield. You see him right there at the top of your screen, trying to hold off the defensive front from Indiana to give Jakes just enough time to get rid of the football. And every once in a while, when those guys are trying to hold those blocks for a long time, they end up grabbing a little bit of jersey. And of course, that referee standing right there with a front row seat.
Rack Adam Replogle, that was like a takedown. Where was the 3 count?
You probably got to take him down. He's such a big guy.
1st and 20 now. Jakes on a handoff. Rainey, no place to go. And a great job by Terrence Thomas up front. And the rest of the Hoosiers, as Jeff Thomas is right in on the scene as well.
Good sign here for the Indiana defense. You see guys getting off blocks in the defensive front, and then Jeff Thomas, that middle linebacker, rotating through with Leon Beckham, flies through the gap and makes a play. That's what they needed on this defensive side, was to start getting some stops, especially against Bobby Rainey, a guy that's been so successful the last couple weeks.
Jeff Thomas, one of the top junior college linebackers in the country out of Foothill Community College in California. Enrolled last January for Indiana. Jakes, play action, batted up, and a great job that time by Damon Sims, a redshirt freshman from Cincinnati.
A lot of times when you get those guys isolated out on the island where David Sims was, you're hoping that you get a running back there that can maybe chop and get his hands down But the awareness there by Sims, realize that Jake's going to throw the ball and just jump up and see if you can't get a hand on it. Now you're looking at a 3rd and 20 situation, exactly where Indiana's defense wants to be.
6:35 remaining here in this 3rd quarter. 3rd and 20. Jakes will work from the shotgun. Willie McNeil on the near side. On the far side, Dexter Haynes.
Timeout, WKU. That is their first timeout of the 2nd half.
Hilltoppers use a timeout here. Willie Taggart, one of the great quarterbacks to ever play here at Western Kentucky University, calls a timeout, his team down. Watch Big Ten games at home or on the go. Live college football and basketball games streaming right to your VCast phone, only from Verizon. 24 unanswered points by Indiana after trailing 7-0. It's going to be 3rd down now and 24. Jakes, Rainey, and the rest of the Hilltoppers. With 6:35 remaining here in this 3rd quarter. Jakes looks down the middle of the field and broken up. Broken up by Jeff Thomas. The linebacker on coverage there, deep downfield.
It's the right read by K'Wan Jakes. You see they're in cover 2. In the middle of the field is the least defended portion on cover 2, but Jeff Thomas is exactly where he needs to be. That's the outside linebacker's position in a traditional cover 2 defense. The outside linebacker has to cover anything coming up the middle of the field. He was in the exact position he needed to be.
Jack Doyle, the intended receiver. Willie Taggart told us he'd love to have an entire team of Jack Doyles. He said he's our Jack Bauer, in fact, the character from 24. He can do it all.
Hey, I never really got into too much 24, but you have to know who Jack Bauer is in this day and age, and it's a stallion.
Big Ten news and notes. 5 teams ranked in the top 25. And how about Denard Robinson last week? Chekwa Defensive Player of the Week. And then Penn State adds Division I men's and women's hockey after an alumnus gives $88 million, which is an unbelievable gift. And so watch out.
Matt, do me a favor. If you can get his phone number, because I'm gonna send him a friend request. I need to get to know that guy a little bit.
On Facebook. 24-7. Indiana. Ben Chappell. He'll pitch it to Antonio Banks. Can they get the running game going? And Antonio Banks is going to grind it out for about 5 yards. The true freshman getting some time. We haven't seen Nick Turner back there, but Antonio Banks, who had just 2 carries for 4 yards against Towson. Willis, who exploded for over 100 yards against Towson, just hasn't done much behind there in the backfield. Just 35 yards on the ground and 17 carries. Chappell on an inside handoff. And trying to establish that run game, Chris Bullard comes in to make the stop, and Antonio Banks.
Well, given the look that they're going with the pass, you see some holes open up right here for Banks. Bullard makes a nice open field tackle to prevent that one from going even further. And it's a tough situation for Indiana because Matt Canada knows that they throw the football so well. But when you get into your conference schedule and you've got guys at Ohio State and Michigan State that run just as fast as you do at the defensive backfield position, you've got to run the football.
Chappell across the middle finds Turner. Especially when the weather turns a little bit in the Big Ten.
The ball gets a little bit harder when it's colder. Receivers' hands get a little bit harder, if you will. Ball starts bouncing off of them a little bit. I know you got such a talented receiver core here for the Hoosiers, but that Big Ten style of football is you got to establish the run, and it's got to be there to keep the defense from keying in your passing game.
Yeah, tell that to Rich Rodriguez. And Denard Robinson. Of course, he did a lot of that damage on the ground. Chappell to the near sideline. And a big day out of DeMarlo Belcher. Belcher, career best in receiving yards, a 16-yard pickup.
And I can tell you, trust me on this one, this is not an easy throw. In my opinion, this is one of the hardest throws for a quarterback to make, is that deep comeback about 22 yards sandwiched up against the sideline. And Chappell just throws it in the perfect position. He makes so many throws look so easy, but for a lot of quarterbacks, they're some of the most difficult throws to have in the pocket.
Belcher now with 117 yards receiving, his previous best 97. That was against Eastern Kentucky. Once again, Belcher, 9 catches now, and he'll pick up a couple more yards receiving. A huge day. Tyree Robinson there for the Hilltoppers. 9 catches, ties his career best. He had 9 catches at Penn State last season.
Well, we saw a lot of this a couple of weeks ago, was Chappell going in the same vicinity as DeMarlo Belcher, and he continues to impress here in week 3 of the college football season. A couple of drops there against Towson, but he has not been dropping the football tonight. Anything that gets in his vicinity, he's taking it with him.
Burgess in the backfield now. Burgess off the left side. Burgess lowers his shoulder. And he's going to be a yard short as Robinson comes up from his cornerback position. That's one of the things when you look at the stats and the player down now for Western Kentucky. And Mark Santoro there. But one of the things you notice, you actually notice that we were talking about this last night, when you look at the leading tacklers for Western Kentucky in that defense, the majority of them all out there in the secondary.
5 out of the 7 guys that are in the top for tackles for the Hilltoppers are all defensive backs. What that tells me is a lot of passes are getting completed in front of them, and they're getting way too much time to throw the ball.
Timeout on the field. Mark Santoro, you see him now with his back up, and the medical staff of Western Kentucky still there. And we do not want to speculate.
You see Santoro right there. You saw the left side of his head ended up hitting Burgess on the hip right there. And Santoro's the type of guy that loves to make tackles. I mean, he's finished second on the team in tackles last year. And you can see it's just an awkward, because it wasn't that hard of a hit. But I can tell you from experience that if you get a blow in just that awkward spot on the top of your head, even though you've got the helmet on with the air pumped up and everything, trust me, it shakes you up a little bit, probably go out for a little, but it's a great sign to see him up on his own power walking off to the sidelines.
Yeah, so Santoro is up, and you see him now on the training table being attended to. It's going to be 3rd down and a 1 for the Hoosiers. Chapper, Rare under center, and Chappell's going to have the first down. Chappell 24-31 for 294 yards. Belcher 9 catches for 123 yards, and Tandon Doss has been exceptional today as well. They've rushed, however, for only 53 yards on 21 carries.
I'll tell you what, I truly believe that Ben Chappell's the most underrated quarterback in this conference. I mean, he is just a phenomenal passing quarterback. And of all the guys that we talk about in the Big Ten, trust me, this guy right here has got the best chance of playing on Sundays.
Chappell rolling out. Chappell back across the middle. And a first down for Indiana, and there's Tandon Doss.
You know, they say you can't teach experience, and this is a prime example. Again, you get one of your best receivers coming across the middle, and what does he do? Makes this back shoulder catch again when he's running full speed across the formation. Take another look at him coming across in the crossing route, makes the adjustment backside, and makes it look easy once again. You cannot teach this to redshirt freshmen. Guys just learn this going into battle each and every Saturday.
5 catches, 52 yards for Tandon Doss. The only positive out of the 16 days off is giving Tandon Doss a little bit of extra time. Willis with just no place to go. He loses yards on the carry, and Thomas Majors is there. The Nashville, Tennessee native out of Northwest Mississippi Community College. What is going on with that run game of Indiana?
Well, they're just struggling to kind of get on their guys and get upfield. On that play right there, we saw way too much going east to west. At some point, both your blockers up front, the offensive line, and your running back got to make the decision, the snap of a finger, that we got to get north and south. You're not going to pick up anything running towards the sidelines.
After the spot, it's going to be right at the original line of scrimmage. Willis changes to the left hip of Chappell. Chappell with plenty of time. Now rushed, and he throws it out of bounds. Good coverage downfield. Chappell with no place to go. He fires it to DeWeese Wilson and Quanterus Smith there.
And you mentioned it, Matt, there was great protection, but right at the end, Quanterus Smith keeps working on the defensive side of the ball to get in Chappell's face. Sometimes when you think that ball is gone, sometimes when the quarterback, you just think the time has gone off and it's out of his hands, the defensive line keeps working, and it pays off in your favor.
Quanterus Smith, the biggest defensive lineman that Western Kentucky University has, 6'5", 239. They have what they call the tiny tackles on the inside. Jamarcus Allen and Kenny Martin, 5'11" and 6 foot. Chappell gets hit, fires it, and is caught by Terrence Turner. Bullard there, and Young as well for the Hilltoppers. 10-yard pickup.
In order to be a successful offense passing the football, it's got to be the protection up front. And that's exactly what Chappell gets. He's going to take another little hit at the end of the play, but I mean, look at him. He can basically just sit back there and dissect the defense and take his pick where he wants to go to the ball. He comes back to Turner late on the crossing route. But if you give any quarterback that much time to make a decision what to do with the ball, it's not good for your defense.
And to come out and measure it with 1:21 remaining here in this third quarter. And a big, big day for Ben Chappell. You know, it's not the way it started out. I mean, Tandon Dawes had electrifying return, but then a fumble by Darius Willis. First down now for the Indiana Hoosiers. Western Kentucky comes down, takes advantage of it. They score. Mitch Ewald, who's in for Nick Freeland, he misses. 37-yard field goal attempt. You could tell they're just out of rhythm. Nothing was clicking, and then in the second quarter, things started to pick up a little bit.
Well, it's pretty much everything that you don't want to happen to you on the road did to the Hoosiers early on, but the fight of these guys to come back and the numbers that this guy's been putting up, 300 yards passing and a couple of touchdowns still in the third quarter. Just a phenomenal game once again. We still got 15 minutes and some change to go.
He's thrown for 2 and he's run for 1. Chappell fires it. And Turner is stuck hard, but that is his 8th reception.
Tyree Robinson for Western Kentucky, actually listed as the backup corner, but a guy that's vying for some more time. When we were talking with the Western Kentucky coaches this week, they were basically saying that the linebacker position and the defensive backfield was still up for grabs. These guys need to come out and continue to make these plays. They want to solidify a position there in the secondary.
2nd and 7 now. Chappell. 3 wide receivers. Belcher, Turner, and Doss. Chappell fires to the end zone. Touchdown. Ted Bolzer. Ted Bolzer, a touchdown.
Once again, Chappell just throws this ball in a spot that nobody else but Ted Bolzer can make a play on it. You see the back corner of the end zone basically has to lay out to make the catch. And there's no way Western Kentucky can make a play when you get a beautiful throw like that from Ben Chappell.
Is under further review.
There is a booth review. Remember, they need indisputable video evidence to reverse the call on the field.
So Keontae Young here, number 29, is trying to make a play to break this ball up. The officials are looking to see if whether or not right here at the end, if this ball comes and hits the ground. It almost looks like he had it cradled there in his forearm. Good concentration there by Ted Bolzer. Again, Keontae Young had that arm laying out. Distraction in his face, who's still able to come down with it.
Chapel has hooked up with 7 different receivers. Bolzer appears as though he had that cradled under the forearm, although did.
I think that was I think that was the best angle that we're going to get to see if whether or not that touched the ground. And again, you're looking for indisputable video evidence that the ball hit the ground. And from that view right there, it just doesn't look like you could see that ball bouncing off the ground. Tremendously athletic play by the tight end Bolzer right there to lay out and make that grab. Once again, Chapel throws this ball perfect spot. And right here is the best look in my opinion, and I just don't think you see enough right here to turn this over. It almost looks like he's got it cradled against his right forearm. I might be a little biased, but if I'm up in the booth, I'm saying that that's a touchdown. That's a great play by the tight end.
Well, as you mentioned, the indisputable video evidence is the only standard that is used to reverse a call on the field. And the Sun Belt Conference officiating crew will announce it.
After further review, the ruling on the field stands. Touchdown.
So Bolzer has his 2nd career touchdown. The redshirt freshman out of Indian Hill High School in Cincinnati, Ohio. Against Townsend, he had the most receiving yards by a tight end for Indiana dating back to 2003. So all of a sudden you talk about Doss, you talk about Turner, and then of course Belcher, Deweese Wilson, and then now they have the tight end in Ted Bolzer. Can they get the running game going? 31-7. 31 unanswered points for the Hoosiers. Tonight, the Big Ten Network will have an encore presentation of our new series that counts down the top athletes in the conference's rich history. Tonight, it's number 20. Former Michigan great and Heisman winner Charles Woodson, Big Ten icons. Hosted by Keith Jackson tonight, 8:30 Eastern, only on the Big Ten Network. Had a chance to watch. I don't want to give it away because the series is that good. You've more than likely have followed it online leading up to 20. Look forward to finding out who is 19.
But you're right, Matt. We don't want to give it away. We'll just say that it's an excellent presentation of Big Ten football and, of course, of Charles Woodson this week. And anyone that has some history with this conference and, of course, followed Charles Woodson in his days at Michigan. And, of course, I followed him in a much different way. I've watched him make play after play against us and many other teams.
Well, the Ohio
conference.
State battle. I mean, everybody kind of remembers that.
Absolutely.
And they go in depth there.
See, you're giving up too much here.
No, that's not too much. And trust me, Wolverine fans and Big Ten fans and Buckeye fans may not want to see that.
It's true. That's true.
Breaking free. Western Kentucky on the return. Donald Campbell on the return for Western Kentucky. A 47-yard return.
So the
by the Hilltoppers.
The entire night, excuse me, Matt, I'm wondering why they continued to kick the ball to Willie McNeil. And finally they do, in my opinion, what's the right thing in kicking it to Campbell. And what does he do? Takes it back all the way to the 50-yard line and gives the Hilltoppers good starting field position here for their drive.
Getting close to the end of this third quarter, 31-7. The Hoosiers on top. Jakes under center. The give to Rainey. Rainey searching for some yards, and he's going to pick up 2. And that's going to end the third quarter as Mick Menser is there on the tackle. The Indiana Hoosiers lead after 3 quarters of action in Bowling Green, Kentucky. 31-7. Fourth quarter coming up. Tonight's Sprint Epic Run features Tandon Doss.
You think there's a guy in an Indiana uniform that was excited to get back out on the football field?
That's the opening kickoff.
This was the opening kickoff of the game, and you talk about making a splash on the road in your first action of the 2010 season. Everybody's wondering, what kind of game is Tandon going to have? Is he going to feel healthy? How recovered is he? Is he in good enough shape? Well, I think he showed us on the opening kickoff that he's ready to get back into the Big Ten and start playing football.
And so they were unable to convert as we have a stoppage of play here. A clock issue. And here we go. They're unable to do anything after fumbling the football after that great return. And the give once again, Donald Campbell. Campbell is able to pick up a couple. Let's go down to Stacey Pates after Leon Beckham makes the tackle.
Well, we talked earlier, we heard Derek say it was quiet in this stadium for a long period of time. That's because the hometown team watched as their teammate Mark Santoro lay on the ground. He was hit in the head and neck area. I spoke with their head athletic trainer, Danny Cobble, and he said, of course, with any injury like that, they're not going to take that lightly. They did a series of moves with him to make sure he still had his strength. The good news is he did. The bad news is, though, they wheeled him off the field. He's back now getting x-rays.
All right, thank you, Stacey, with the update. Quinterrence Cooper and Western Kentucky moving the football here.
Quinterrence Cooper, one of the few seniors on this Western Kentucky ball club, finally getting some action in the passing game. Take another look at him against Matt Ernest. Again, the converted wide receiver does a nice job on the quick slant route, and Ernest just not there, anticipating a little bit too much, but Ernest needs to make that tackle right when Cooper makes the catch.
At the 25-yard line, Indiana Hoosiers, they've done a good job containing Bobby Rainey. Rainey, from a yardage standpoint, play action. Jakes under pressure, almost picked off. Rainey's run for just 81 yards. Remember what he put up against Kentucky as well as Nebraska.
I was asking Brian George this week if he feels like a guy like Mitchell Evans, excuse me, because he played wide receiver, has got that sense of anticipation when he can see a route like a bootleg, that was right there developed. And in my opinion, that was a prime example of him noticing that coming and making the break and almost intercepting that pass.
Yeah, but Len Yada Kyles is saying, hey man, that was mine.
You just stole my pick.
That was mine. Bobby Rainey trying to get to the outside. Rainey does get to the outside, has the first down, and he is out of bounds at the 11-yard line before Jeff Thomas shoves him out of bounds after a pickup of 14 yards. Well, they got a long way to go here with 13:32 to go, down 31-7. They've dropped 22 consecutive games. Longest active losing streak. Last time they won, I mentioned it earlier, 2008 against Murray State.
I'll tell you what, Matt, there's a lot of streaks that you want to be a part of, and I'd like to think that Willie Taggart and his program do not want to be a part of that streak. One of the most highest losing streaks in the country right now, and I think it's just a matter of time.
Rainey had 62 yards on the first drive, 33 cents, and now a touchdown. Bobby Rainey gets into the end zone, 11-yard run, and a touchdown for the Hilltoppers.
This is what Bobby Rainey does best, is he gets himself skinny going through a hole, slides off of tacklers. You can see right there, Mitchell Evans coming up, trying to make the play in the open field. And Rainey does just a little bit with his hips right there to evade the tackle and gets into the end zone for a touchdown.
Over 100 yards now on the day for Bobby Rainey. And the extra point is good. 31-14, 13 minutes remaining here at Bowling Green. The Hoosiers looking to go 2-0 on the season.
Big Ten Network Football is presented by Verizon. Own the airwaves. The signal is yours. Verizon. Rule the air. Philips Televisions. So amazing you won't be able to take your eyes off of it. By Rotel and Velveeta. Try Rotel and Velveeta's famous queso dip, the ultimate game day snack. And by Wolf Chili. Open up a big old can of Texas.
(31-14) Indiana. After the Bobby Rainey touchdown, Rainey over 100 yards on the day, and he has run for 4 touchdowns this season. Getting set to kick off is Hendricks Brakefield. out of Hillsborough High School, 60 miles south of Bowling Green in Nashville, Tennessee. And back to receive is Tandon Doss and Nick Turner. Line drive, and Turner mishandles it, and he's just going to grab it, and it's a touchback. Indiana will take over at the 20. All right, now for the Rotel-Valvita combination of the game, because you can't win without the perfect partner. We had it up here that he had 10 receptions. Belcher actually has 8 receptions, so one away from tying his career high of 9 at Penn State. But look at Chappell. Belcher, huge days.
Chappell 28 out of 36, and for those math majors out there, that's nearly 78% completion percentage. So you talk about a guy that's been getting it done in the passing game. Number 4 knows how things unfold there on the defensive side of the ball and knows just where to put the football.
You know, so much conversation about, understandably so, the freshman quarterback at Penn State, Bolden, and then of course Denard Robinson, the sophomore at Michigan, Scott Tolzien with Wisconsin. But Ben Chappell is a special player. Of course, Ricky Stanzi at Iowa. That one behind Doss and incomplete. And Iowa's taking on Arizona. That's going to be a tough one for the Hawkeyes.
That offensive line for Indiana has been doing a really good job tonight, but Western Kentucky continues to come after Chappell, and unfortunately playing a quarterback position, that's going to happen. You're going to get knocked down on occasion. You got to deliver the ball and take some hits now and then. You're just hoping that more often than not, you're throwing completions than you are getting hit.
The combination of Belcher, Turner, and Doss, 21 catches for 223 yards out of the backfield. Willis in the first spark for him today. Darius Willis in a first down and a pickup of 11. But that's what everybody in the Big Ten should be concerned about. The Doss, Terrence Turner, and Belcher. And then if you add in Ted Bolzer, the tight end, talented tight end out of Cincinnati.
Well, they're going to give defenses fits the entire season because they can't key in on one person. You can't say we're going to try to shut down Doss or we're going to try to limit Ted Bolzer, because there's a whole bunch of guys that'll make you pay.
That one sails through the fingertips of Turner. They're just going to need to find a run game here at some point. Stay tuned for the State Farm wrap-up for scores, highlights, and analysis of today's games. The State Farm wrap-up.
Now, Matt, you were talking about the quarterbacks and kind of how Ben Chappell fares, but you know what's interesting is the common denominator of all those quarterbacks you talk about are, number 1, winning programs, and number 2, history. Whether or not the Rob Boldens or the Denard Robinson will turn into anything is to be seen, but the fact that they play for Penn State and Michigan.
Willis on an inside handoff, and he gets hit from behind, and he ends up going down at the 45-yard line. Pick up a 13.
So maybe Matt Canada's piped into your headset here, Devlin, talking about them needed to establish that running game. And, you know, when you've got a lead, that's one of the things that you've got to do. You're up by 17 points here in the fourth quarter, just under 12 minutes to play. This is one of the things you do on offense is you start using the clock to your advantage by running the football and keeping that thing moving.
Well, they've run it 23 times for 66 yards. They've thrown it 39 times. And that is something that you have to do. And talking to Matt Canada, offensive coordinator for Indiana, as well as the head coach Bill Lynch, and they talked about having some balance. And if you don't find that balance, it's going to be all on the right shoulder of Ben Chappell.
Hey, and I'll tell you, he's up to the challenge.
Yeah.
That guy likes slinging that football from back in the shotgun.
And he already graduated. He's getting his master's degree. Belcher on the reception. That's his 9th catch. It's a first down, and that ties his career best. 9 catches on the day for DeMarlo Belcher, tying his mark set at Penn State last season.
You know, again, you get a good look at him just running this little pivot out route, and just that connection, that confidence between Chappell and Belcher right now is just excellent to see, especially early on in the season. We talked about, yeah, you got to use the clock to your advantage, but I think Ben Chappell will tell you, listen, I'm not in Indiana uniform here to hand the football off. I want to throw it down the field now. I got too many weapons.
Yes, well, he does. Jared Clendenin is down right now on the field for Western Kentucky. Reason for the stoppage of play. Clendenin, the junior.
See him there stretching out that calf. I would be willing to bet that he's got a little cramp in his right calf right now. That happens so often. Remember, we talked about it early in the ball game. It was 88 degrees and humid.
Yeah.
Although it's shady now, these guys have been playing a lot of football. You can see he's just trying to walk it off. Be willing to bet he just caught a little cramp there in the middle of that play.
And sun starting to set. And Clendenin jogs off of the field. Willie Taggart had so many great things to say about Jared Clendenin. Said he's always the first guy in line. Every drill, he's ready to go. Leader on the field. And he's going to have to step out for at least one play here. Chappell's going to work out of the shotgun. Handoff. Burgess. Burgess on a cutback move. And he is brought down by Quinteris Smith. And a nice pickup by Burgess. A sophomore out of South Bend, Indiana.
And we talked about the guys, the running backs, needing to get north and south when they get the football in their hands. And, you know, I like to run the outside zone, the stretch zone play, where you get those offensive linemen trying to spread open that defensive front and create a holes. And Aaron Price, left guard there for Indiana, had a nice block to open up a hole there for Burgess.
4 carries, 21 yards. Burgess gets it again. This time he gets stopped just shy of the line of scrimmage. This run game, is it the offensive line? The offensive line has done a great job protecting Chappell all day long, but they just have not gotten any leverage up front.
You know, and running the football is really an attitude. It's one of those things that you work about in practice, and your offensive line embraces it. And sometimes when you get in these more pass-heavy programs, these guys get so comfortable and so good at protecting the quarterback, it's a hard adjustment for them to fire off and try to block a defensive front, especially one that's moving around in front of them.
Yeah, firing off, big difference from kind of sitting back. Here's Chappell. Chappell fires it over the middle. Deweese Wilson hops over a defender, and he has a first down. And Tyree Robinson, a hurdling play by Deweese Wilson. And you cannot, well, you can get more efficient, but Indiana 10 of 11 on third
So
down.
you're saying that we could be 11 for 11. Yeah. You talked about Deweese Wilson.
11.
Deweese Wilson showing us a little bit there that, remember, he won that long jump title in high school at 23 feet 6 inches. That was a little bit of a high jump slash long jump, but showing us the athleticism that the redshirt freshman's got.
On 1st and 10, here's Wilson. Wilson with a pickup, 5 yards, and Ryan Beard comes in and makes a stop, the junior from right here into Bowling Green, Kentucky. Deweese Wilson.
You know, I'm all about throwing the football, but what I like to see is when your wide receivers are blocking for you. Deweese gets a nice block there by DeMarlo Belcher. You know, all these guys are in the same meeting rooms and they go do individual together. It's one of the best things you can do to repay a favor to your buddy is go out there and get a block for him and let him get a couple extra yards.
Yeah, Deweese Wilson, a special young man. You know, both of his parents are hearing impaired, and he is majoring in speech and hearing sciences. A remarkable young man. And how about Nick Turner? Nick Turner on a 24-yard run for the touchdown. The redshirt freshman with his first collegiate touchdown. Southport High School record of better than 2,000 yards rushing. He was All-State, had 26 touchdowns in high school. And Nick Turner with the touchdown. Ben Chappell leads the Hoosiers right down the field. It is 38-14, 7:58 to go. Nick Turner says, I got your run game.
All right, let's take a look at the touchdown here by Nick Turner. You're going to see Bo Adebayo right here. Gets his eyes too much in the backfield, and Nick Turner sees it And once he gets into the open field, look at all this space that he has with no defenders. And when we were talking with the coaches, they mentioned that Nick Turner is a burner. You get this guy out in the open field, there's not too many people on the defense that are going to be able to catch him.
Rack it up. 38-14 with 7:58. Mitch Ewald. The kickoff for Indiana, better than 20,776 in attendance today, the second largest home crowd in Western Kentucky University history. And taken by Campbell. Campbell is brought down at the 29-yard line, and that's where Jakes will come out. The National League pennant race is headed for an amazing finish in this October. The four best teams will collide in a month of games filled with drama, excitement, and thrills to see which team will advance to the World Series. Coverage of baseball's postseason returns October 16th with the NLCS, followed by the World Series only on Fox. 38-14.
How about your Blue Jays, Devlin?
Well, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, hey, look, I'm on the edge of my seat, too. I'm an Atlanta guy now, and the Atlanta Braves had a stranglehold there in the National League, and they've let it slide a little bit. So we'll see how that race goes with Philadelphia here in the last couple weeks of the season.
Co-defensive coordinator Brian George of Indiana is a huge Cincinnati Reds fan. We got into a long conversation about the Cincinnati Reds. Jack Doyle near a first down. The Cathedral High School product out of Indianapolis, Indiana. And Mitchell Evans is there on the stop. He has made a nice transition as Mitchell Evans. Of course, he was there before as a freshman as a safety, but then he went to quarterback and wide receiver. He is, as Joe Paulsick told us, he's back home.
Kind of joking with him a little bit that I think offensive and defensive line are probably the only positions that he hasn't played yet. So they need to get him a snap or two at both just to say he's done everything on the field.
Back to pass across the middle. There's Campbell. And Campbell, the speedy freshman, a 16-yard pickup. Stay tuned for the State Farm wrap-up for scores, highlights, and analysis of today's games. Big Ten with 5 teams in the top 25 in the nation. Minnesota, after losing last week to the Coyotes of South Dakota and USC, they were up early against USC, but then the Trojans went on to take care of business. Batted ball, but Doyle still is able to reel it in before he is tackled at the 30-yard line. And Leon Beckham is there. Tyler Rapogel is going to be credited with the tackle, 14-yard pickup at a first down. And all of a sudden, Western Kentucky has got things rolling, and not through the ground, but through the air.
Well, trust me, Willie Taggart's going to be trying to find ways to get the ball into the hands of Jack Doyle. Freshman all-Sun Belt team last year as a redshirt freshman, and a guy that was elected captain as a sophomore, so you can see how much faith and confidence they have in Jack Doyle.
Bobby Rainey, no place to go up the middle. Doyle has 4 catches for 39 yards, and as Willie Taggart told us about Jack Doyle, he said he's not going to talk about it, he's going to be about it.
And isn't that what football is all about in this day and age? You get so many guys, and of course on the NFL level it gets a little bit overwhelming, but talking the game and talking all the trash, but saying that Jack Doyle is just a guy that comes out and every day he works hard in practice. I remember last year when I talked to Jack, he had said, you know, that prototypical tight end, I want to block, I want to run block, I want to run guys over, but he's shown us here tonight and throughout his career at Western Kentucky that he is definitely a good receiving tight end as well.
Jakes out of the shotgun, goes to the corner. Vasquez, no. Marcus Vasquez, it is incomplete. He is out of bounds. By the way, all that talking and stuff, Glenn Mace told me you used to talk quite a bit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Mace lied to you on that one. But Vasquez right here had a nice effort trying to bring that football in. Looked like one of his feet might have touched inbounds right there, but Vasquez was a guy that came into Western Kentucky as a quarterback and was actually going to compete with Jakes for the starting job. But after Jakes became the starter, they was another one of those guys that they figured, you know, we got to have on the football field. He's too athletic to be sitting on the bench.
So 3rd down now and 11. And the officials are going to stop in the action.
The previous play is under further review.
So under review. Does he have a foot in?
I think somebody up in Western Kentucky is trying to say right there that that left foot might have hit on bounds. And it's going to be a tough distinction on whether or not he had control of the football when that left foot came down. Take another look to see if he's got control of the football. It almost looks like he does.
Yes, with the pylon right there. And if he does, it'd be a touchdown.
I mean, look at Vasquez go up for this ball and try to click that left toe on the ground, and it looks like he got it down. I think the replay officials are just going to try to determine if he's got control of the football when that foot does touch the grass.
Indisputable video evidence.
Rick Doan out of the Sun Belt Conference is the replay official today, taking a look at this one. It's an excellent effort there by Vasquez. I think this one could go either way. Whether or not they've got that indisputable video evidence that he had both the catch secured and his foot down is still the question.
Western Kentucky able to mix it up a little bit with the run game not that effective in the second half, going to the air here in the fourth quarter.
So right there, you can definitely see that that left foot's on the goal line. Can't tell whether or not he's got possession of the football, but you definitely see that there is a foot down, and right there, it looks like he's got possession of the ball.
Let's see this angle. This is to see whether or not he had possession. So we know he had the foot down and also hitting the pylon. Appears as though he does have possession.
Yeah, Devlin, I think there's a good chance this one might get overturned, especially them taking a real hard look at this one. This one might end up being a touchdown for the Hilltoppers.
Scoring has not been an issue for Western Kentucky. It's been what they do on the defensive side or what they don't do on the defensive side. They've allowed 38 points.
Right, you be the judge at home. Does it look like he's got possession?
After further review, the receiver caught the ball, inbounds, touchdown.
Yeah. Play is reversed. 31-yard strike in the air.
You know, we were talking with Willie Taggart this week. This is one of the things that he said he wants to see the growth in his team is when things start to get rough. When they get down, when a couple of bad plays happen. In the past, the guys haven't rallied around and tried to turn things around, but I think we're starting to see the start of that for Western Kentucky.
(38-21), 5:24 to go from Bowling Green, and flags are on the field.
Offside, defense by rule. A penalty is declined. Point after try is good.
38-21. 5:24 to go here in Bowling Green. (31-21) Indiana. 38, pardon me, to 21. And the Polaris hardest working player is Tandon Doss. Did not play against Towson because of the groin injury. That extra time certainly helped out, and you know, one of the best all-purpose players a season ago in the Big Ten, and proving that once again.
Absolutely, and again, we talked about it a little bit earlier, just trying to figure out what situation Tandon Doss was going to be once they got through the game and how much production he was going to give you. And I think he answered all those questions and what he's done for this Indiana program, and that he's going to be just fine moving forward. and just added yet another weapon to that receiving core.
With 5:24 to go, 38-21, the all-hands team right now for Indiana is up. You have Turner up on the front line. Matt Ernest is there. Mitchell Evans is there. Max Dedman's up. Deweese Wilson is up as well. Nick Turner is at the 20. And a timeout taken by Willie Taggart after seeing what Bill Lynch sent out there.
Yeah, a lot of times they want to check and see what type of way they're going to defend it, whether they're sending the kickoff return team or the hands team. So now they'll re-huddle and figure out which decision where they want to go, whether or not they want to kick it deep.
Our Phillips player of the game is a grad student. And he already has an accounting degree. And those are some great numbers. 32 of 42, 366.
And even more impressive is that other than that fumble that may or may not have been his fault, that he hasn't turned the football over, but just the accuracy, again, the location of these throws, that one out in the corner of the end zone to Ted Bolzer, and some of the back shoulder throws that maybe they were poor throws, but he's had great receivers to make the adjustments and bring him down. And again, all that credit for Ben Chappell needs to go back to the entire offense, the offensive line, the wide receivers for making the catches, even the running backs for picking up some blitzers that have been coming through defensively.
Belcher caught a touchdown pass. Doss caught a touchdown pass. Bolzer caught a touchdown pass, and that one's going to trickle out of bounds right at the 17-yard line.
And I'll venture to say that when they called that timeout, that wasn't one of the things that Willie Taggart was looking for. Going to end up giving Indiana great field position here after the kickoff out of bounds.
See the flags down. Western Kentucky with one timeout remaining. And it's his son.
Ball will be placed at the 40-yard line, 1st and 10, Indiana.
So 40-yard line of Indiana, and Ben Chappell comes back out there.
That was one of the things you and I talked about, Matt, with the first unit only getting a limited number of snaps in that first game, having almost 2.5 weeks off. If the game started to get a little lopsided, which 17 points is still somewhat within reach with over 5 minutes to play, but whether or not they would leave the starters out there, and you can see they've got all the big dogs out there. They need to continue to develop that consistency and that timing once they finish up this non-conference schedule and get into Big Ten play.
Well, not even from a passing game standpoint, but certainly right now the run game with 5:24 to go. Burgess stretched out, and Burgess is stacked up behind the line of scrimmage. So no place for Trey Burgess to go as Tyree Robinson comes in on the stop for Western Kentucky.
I was playing with the Atlanta Falcons. We had a guy that coached for us who's one of the most legendary in the game, Alex Gibbs. Was with the Broncos when they won all the Super Bowls, and his motto for running backs, and he coached the running backs as much as he coached the offensive line, is he says, one cut and get upfield. And right there you saw that Burgess tried to make that cut and he kept running sideways. Alex Gibbs would have been giving him an earful from the sideline.
2nd down and long. They go back to the run once again. And Western Kentucky University right there, and Willis no place to go, and Thomas Majors is on the scene, and that's going to bring up now 3rd down and 12 for Indiana.
You can see they're trying to go to the running game. Again, under 5 minutes to play in the game now. They're trying to keep that clock moving, but instead they're going backwards. 2 consecutive plays now. They've gone for 0 or minus yardage, and now you're probably setting up a situation where Chappell's got to go back through the air.
You want to run when they know that you need to run, and you want to pass when you know that the other team knows it's a passing down. And a little draw play, but you know, that's one of the keys, right? The great teams have it when everybody knows you got to run. Can you get it done?
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the advantages that Wisconsin has with that big, experienced offensive line, especially when they get into short yardage and goal line. They line up and they say, hey, you know what? We're going to run the football. We might even tell you which direction we're going to run the football. Now you need to stop it.
Well,
and that's the sign of an excellent offensive line in a run blocking scheme.
Very tough to stop John Clay. He will run right over you. Chris Hager up is out to punt, and that is his first punt. This will be in right here. And he's got a big leg, but that one's going to take a Hilltopper bounce. And Sims comes down with it, and a penalty. No penalty, a whistle, and they're going to put it right there. All right, the upcoming schedule now for Indiana. You got Akron and then Michigan, Ohio State, go out of conference, Arkansas State.
Yeah, come back to the Sun Belt and play Arkansas State, but the conference schedule for the Hoosiers is not going to do them any favors, as if any season you're going to get any favors, but every once in a while you'll catch a team that'll be off from like a Michigan and Ohio State one year, but the road's going to get tough here for the Hoosiers in a couple weeks.
And the other thing too is they're not going to have a bye week during the course of the season. Remember, you go back to camp for Indiana, you know, they didn't do a ton of hitting, didn't do a ton of tackling, as Rainey is underneath. But you know, sometimes you want those bodies in the middle of the Big Ten season to get a little bit of rest. Well, this came early. Now, he talked to Bill Lynch, said there was nothing we could do about it. Just, you know, happened. This thing was scheduled long in advance, and this just kind of fell the way it happened with 16 days in between game 1 and game 2. So it'll be interesting to see how Indiana handles 11 straight weeks of football. Richard Council coming up from the corner.
And we talked with him a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things he mentioned was the fact that they're trying a different scheme of practice here. As you take a look at the replay, Bobby Rainey just getting a hand on it. But they're trying a different style of practice in Bloomington, where they're trying to keep guys healthy, trying to limit some of the injuries. Bill Lynch and his staff went back and looked at the tape and found that a lot of guys were getting injured in drills that really weren't helping them out, that didn't correlate to play on the football field. So now, once they get into this schedule where they're going to play 11 straight weeks, we're going to find out how well that new practice schedule works.
Across the middle of the field, and the pass is caught by Jack Doyle, and a first down for WKU. Oh, no huddle here. Doyle up to the line of scrimmage. Jakes with 2:18 remaining in the fourth quarter. Jakes flushed out of the pocket. Flag down. And Jakes is able to pick up 4 yards. However, flag down on the play.
They're going to end up getting Western Kentucky for a holding penalty here.
Holding. Offense number 68. Penalty is 10 yards from the previous spot. Replay, first down.
Preston King, the senior from Bowling Green, 6 penalties for the Hilltoppers. Today, Bill Lynch, what kind of guy is he? Well, yesterday they had a caravan of 4 buses, about 3.5-hour drive from Bloomington to Bowling Green. The 4th bus, which had all the support staff, broke down about an hour outside of town. And the 3 buses, the lead buses, were ahead, and they actually stopped, did a U-turn, came back, and they had the entire support staff come out, fill in the other 3 buses. As Vasquez tries to elude the tacklers, and the Hoosiers right there, and of course all the equipment and everything like that. You know, a lot of head coaches, they would have just said, hey, look it, man, you guys stay. We're going to keep on.
We'll send somebody back for you.
Yeah, we'll not Bill Lynch. He said, you know what, boys, let's turn this thing back around.
Team concept right there. Got to go back and get all of our troops there. And, you know, especially when you do go on the road and you got to hitch up the buses for a trip. You're just hoping that nothing like that happens, because it ends up being a long day anyway, because they're going to come back and work. They're going to do some walkthroughs and meetings, and that just made the day even longer.
How about Glenn Nate? You played for Mace. What do you think he would have done?
Oh, you're going to put me on the spot on
I know what he would have done, because I know him well. He would have left you behind.
He might have sent the other 2 buses that he wasn't on back to pick everybody up.
You take a look at the division alignment. Indiana with Illinois, Ohio State, Penn State, Purdue, and Wisconsin.
So again, schedule won't do them any favors. They'll likely get Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin every year. And, you know, Matt, I think we need to do a lottery.
Line. The result of the play is 3rd down.
After the penalty, 3rd down and 17.
To name those divisions, I think you need to be the one to come up for the name of those divisions.
Well, you know, I think you go back to what Coach D said. He had the Bo and then the Woody conferences, I believe. Woody Hayes and Bo Schembechler.
I like that. So many of them just go east and west, but that brings the history back into the occasion.
See what happens. Jakes deep down the middle of the field and overthrows the intended receiver, Mitchell Evans, the closest player to it, the safety for Indiana. What are some of the things that you liked out of this Indiana Hoosier football team today, aside from Chappell in the receiving corps? Because you know coming in you're going to be able to get that.
I think we saw some improvement from the defensive side. I think from the first half to the second half, they made the adjustments they needed to slow down Bobby Rainey a little bit and slow down the running game. We talked about the connection between Rainey and Jakes as far as running the football. I think they did an admirable job of really containing those two.
Break field, and this one is going to roll all the way down to the 5-yard line with 28 seconds remaining. Indiana 38, trying to shake off 16 days. There were 159 football games played in between their first game on September 2nd and when they kicked off here this afternoon in Bowling Green. Ben Chappell comes out and Trey Burgess. Burgess, the running back. They'll have the Akron Zips next week. A little victory formation here for Indiana.
Most teams usually practice this once or twice at the end of every day, hoping that once they get the field on Saturday, they'll actually get to use it for real.
And for Bill Lynch, 4 consecutive seasons that he has started 2-0, and Indiana has started now 2-0 for 7 consecutive years, one of 5 FBS teams to start 2-0 since 2004. Indiana wins it 38-21, Rack. Here in Bowling Green, the Indiana Hoosiers come to town and they come away with a victory, 38-21. Big day through the air, Ben Chappell and the trio of receivers for the Hoosiers. Final score once again, 38-21 Hoosiers. Let's go to Chicago and Dave Rebson. Dave?